Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And while the Pakistani government and the army are trying their level best to officially, somehow or the other, um, manage a 10-year dictatorship, let us try and steer clear because we have too many headaches, too many heartaches, too many problems already in life, thanks to the demented, utterly psychotic, illiterate, unqualified morons that are our, and I quote here, leaders. You know, God does say that your leadership represents you, in the sense as the kind of people you've become as a nation is the kind of person I'll put above you. I think that should tell all of us a lot. It should tell the Americans what they've been up to. It should tell us Pakistanis and Indians what we've been up to, you know? So, yeah. Sweep before your own door. Try to fix your own selves, which will never happen. So, why even bother, right? So, as I said, let's just move on to other simpler problems, which obviously, one way or the other, is part of the same greater problem, as we know. And that is two things that have been kind of bothering me. I know I've actually talked about one of them, maybe the other one too in passing, but one of them I've definitely talked about a lot when I've lamented on the poor quality. And I'm beginning to think that it really is a problem of quality, because when you look at, I have never had problems wearing closed shoes like joggers or canvas or sneakers or loafers or whatever the hell it is, or or even kusas. I have worn both open and closed shoes with equal ease, and I've never had problem. Okay, and as you know, I have literally preferred buying local. The first time I found myself having problems with shoes was in England, when I realized that the quality in England had, and this is like more than 17, almost 20 years ago. This is when I realized that, you know what, there was a time, which I've said in that one of my previous podcasts, that there was a time when in the 80s and in the 90s, you would go to England just to get Italian made shoes, because you got the right kind of shoes, you got comfortable shoes. But as an adult, when I went to England, I literally had to return all the shoes that I bought. And in that time, I think paying £20 for a pair of shoes cannot be considered cheap. Okay, so you can imagine they were just not at all worth it. They bit, they hurt, they even bled my feet. So and I'm talking about open as well as closed shoes, both. And I was like, oh my god, dang, this, I mean, it's become rubbish here now. And when I came back to Pakistan, I actively again searched for completely local shoes. And as I've said in that podcast of mine, that many of the shoes that have lasted me, that I mean, these are shoes that I left behind in Pakistan when I went back abroad. And when I came back, those shoes were intact except for a few, and which is understandable because the intense heat that has been building up in Pakistan, the climate change, everything kept closed in the cupboards and in their boxes and all. The fact that they still lasted me at least 2 decades before they began to wear out on me, or before their, you can say their, what is it? The souls disintegrated. And to be fair, actually, the ones whose souls disintegrated were probably the ones which were the first batch of when quality began to decline, in the sense that when in Pakistan shoemakers started importing materials to make shoes, when it became more of a trend, and that is in the year 2002 onwards, right? So basically, the batch of shoes that I bought between 2002 and 2005, they were the ones, and again, not all of them, literally just 4 or 5 of them, they were the ones that gave out on me in different ways. Mostly it was either the sole separating, or if there were wedges, then it was the sole disintegrating, because the sole was essentially, actually, fun fact, the one that sole disintegrated, I think it was made of some sort of a foam or rubber or something. So still to be to stay intact and to disintegrate after so many years, because when I came back in, this was 2009, when I came back to Pakistan in 2009, and that is when those shoes, when they were still intact until I brought them out and wore them, and that's when they started disintegrating. So one of the shoes that I mean, most almost all my shoes are, as I said, more than 2 decades old, and they've still been intact. And you know what? Those were the cheapest ones. So the actually the more expensive ones were the ones that started to show, their signs, as in. But the cheapest actual local made shoes, actually they're still here. Most of them are still here, literally. They're those kind that you can repair. You can just repair, you can sew them over all over again, take them to the cobblers and get them sew, and then after that you're done. If the glue comes off, just tell the cobbler to stitch them up, and you're done, especially if you have a good cobbler that doesn't ruin the whole thing. So I mean, that's how it is. So we've got, and then as I said, the traditional shoes, which were originally always made of leather and fabric, they're still here intact, and they are almost 3 decades old. So that is how it is. Okay, so when you look at that, and then you look at the shoes that I bought recently. Now, the problem is the shoes that I bought recently, and I'm talking about the closed ones now. I'm talking about the joggers, or the sneakers, whatever you like to call them. And I'm talking about the canvas and all. They are not comfortable. They're supposed to be made of fabric, or they're supposed to be made, or they're supposed to have some sort of an inner, even if I put that, the insoles that we have, which you put in the back just to protect your ankles. Yeah, it's not helping, which makes me wonder, have my feet suddenly become too sensitive, despite the fact that I have literally been wearing nothing but closed shoes even when I was in England. And you know what, those shoes that I was wearing when I was in England, again, I took them with me from Pakistan, and I swear, I think it's just my luck or something, but those were the best, most softest, most cushioned joggers ever, and I have never found anything of the sort ever again, not in England, not here in Pakistan again. And they were made by Ehsan Chappal store, which is pretty famous for their shoes. Although, fun fact, at the same time that I bought those joggers, I bought brown joggers, and the brown ones completely ruined. They were like, literally, I didn't even get to wear them. Seriously, I didn't even get to wear them once. They were not comfortable, and the sole separated. And then the top also, when I asked somebody to bring those shoes to me in England, I don't know what happened on the way, because when they came to me, they were in no condition to be worn. So I had to discard them. But the black ones that I wore with me and brought with me from Pakistan to England, I swear, I practically almost lived in those shoes, in the sense that I walked everywhere in them. And with or without socks, I seriously never felt a thing, not a thing. But now, I'm sorry, but I'm not getting that thing. I'm just not getting it. I have, because my Nike one that I bought in England, that was pretty comfortable too for a pretty long time. But then when I came to Pakistan, obviously I didn't get to use it much. But here, just literally last year, it's one of the shoes soles has cracked underneath. But the cobbler says that yeah, it can be fixed, but I still didn't give it to him because I'm just scared that he might ruin the surface of the shoes while trying to fix the soles, because he's done that to one of my shoes. So I've just kept it, and I bought new shoes. Now those new shoes were actually very comfortable because they're literally made of cloth or fabric, whatever you like to call it. But you know what? Not always. Sometimes it just bites my feet all over, from my little toe all the way to my um the the ankle, and all the way to the Achilles heels, sort of a thing. I did I say Achilles? Well, anyways, point is, the that wherever it can bite, it bites every now and then. So sometimes it bites, sometimes it doesn't, and I don't get it. I really don't get it, And I think the only thing that stops it from biting me is when I wear socks, because as I said, even those foamed ankle protectors that you stick to the back of the shoe, that also doesn't help. It's completely useless because it still bit me despite that, you know. So I was like, yeah, what the heck, and then I realized that, while sitting, I just realized that, yeah, no, it definitely is quality, I guess, at the end of the day. Because, and I guess it's also my luck, that for the first time I've actually come across shoes that, makes you think that, oh my God, all my life I've actually been blessed. I mean, I thought it was just me and my feet that, that I could somehow wear any and every shoe without having a problem. But now I'm beginning to wonder that maybe I was just blessed that I got all those shoes and never had a problem. My problems with shoes began in England, and they've continued here. But I think it also confirms my point on quality. Despite the fact that the shoe is made of fabric, it still bites. Why would a fabric shoe bite? So and even if you put the foam, why? Because the shoe has now become a bit loose, so it will bite. If the shoe is a bit tight, it will bite. It just doesn't make sense. Because as I said, my joggers, the ones that I used for years, even if they got a bit loose or tight, it didn't affect me in any way. They still didn't bite. They still didn't bite. And now there are so many shoes that claim to be medicated and all, but I sometimes wonder if that joggers of mine is probably the first of its kind that could actually have been called a medicated shoe, because that was like walking on clouds, literally. And all these medicated shoes, they do not have that feel. I'm sorry, but they don't. Not at all. And it was with a very, very broken heart that I had to say goodbye to those shoes when they finally cracked. And, well, you can't blame them. They've been, again, for almost 2 decades, they've been with me. More than that, actually. Yeah, more than 2 decades. They've been with me for decades. And, yeah. So the other thing that gets me going now is how people always, when they talk about moisturizers and moisturizing lotions and creams, and they always say, oh, the thick ones, they're the ones that are very good because they're intensive, and they are best for dry skin and all. I have normal to dry skin, and in the recent years, because of, when you move from extreme weather to extreme weather, like from Europe to Pakistan, then your skin also obviously reacts in many ways. A few changes, chemical changes within your body, hormonal changes, your skin barrier, whatever, many things occur. And so recently, like especially in the past few years, not every single year, but it's weird. Sometimes it skips a year. What happens is, especially during winter, the skin gets so dry, it's as if I'm getting an eczema or something. Seriously. It's as if I'm getting rosacea or eczema or something. And believe me, these thick moisturizers, they do nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know what has always worked on my skin? The milky formulas, the runny formulas, It didn't matter if it was Vaseline, Vaseline, the cucumber one, that the body lotion, the cucumber one. If you remember its formula, it was basically almost milky. It was runny. That was amazing. That was amazing. And in Pakistan, I found one that did the same job. It was almost exactly the same formula, and I don't know why they went and changed it. And I'm talking about, the name is weird, okay? The name is weird ass, and that's Brido, okay? But Brido's aloe vera formula, I think it's just aloe vera. I still have it. Yeah, it's the aloe vera body lotion. And I'm telling you, I loved its old formula because the old formula was so sick. I mean, it was milky, it was runny, it was very, at one point, in fact, it became almost watery, obviously, because of the heat and everything. But I'm telling you, it worked like a charm. It literally healed my nails. Like, for some weird reason, overnight, and I'm saying overnight, not even gradually, but overnight, suddenly almost all my nails, they produced ridges. And I was like, okay, it seems as if they've become too dry, too brittle. Something has happened to them. I don't know what happened, that they suddenly have become like that. And you know what? When I put that lotion, literally my nails would become smooth, as if there is no ridges at all. There are no ridges at all, not a single ridge. It's amazing the way. And that is why when it went out of stock, I was looking for it for such a long time. And when it came back in stock, it came with this new formula. Like, seriously, why? And the new formula is like all those other formulas that people seem to be bringing out, where it's thick and it's good for intensive skin. It's not. I'm sorry, but thick lotions are not actually good for sensitive skins or for dry skins. You know why? Because they literally just sit on top. You think that, oh, they're so thick, that means they're so intense, and then they're going to heavily moisturize your skin. No, that's not always the case or the idea. In fact, most of the times thick formulas tend to sit on your skin, and that is why you must have noticed it takes time for these formulas to be absorbed. I mean, you literally have to keep on, rubbing gently, applying for quite some time until all of it is gone into your skin. And you think that's a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's not. What's a good thing is when a formula immediately just, your skin literally just drinks it up. You literally feel it seeping into every single pore of your skin. And that is a milky formula. That is a runny formula. So I personally like that, because I've actually seen how it actually instantly affects your skin and your nails. Okay, at least it did mine. And it's with all of it. As I said, it doesn't matter if it's Vaseline, it doesn't matter if it is Brido, it doesn't matter if it is any other. Despite the fact that I always used simple products when in the UK, I used its face wash and its lotion and lotion and everything. But again, their formula now, it's not as thick, but it's still thick. And I'm not a fan of it. So I have it, but I don't use it much. In fact, I used it when my skin became so dry that it cracked up and I felt as if I was developing rosacea. And when I applied it to my skin, it did nothing. Nothing. Seriously, it did nothing. And we're talking about Simple here. Simple is a very good brand, and it's supposed to be like particularly for sensitive skin. It did nothing. But opposed to that, when I found the milky formula of the local brand, the local Pakistani brand Brido, and when I used it, my skin just sucked it all up. It just sucked it. It just seeped into my skin, and immediately, literally within minutes, my skin was as if there was nothing there, as if literally there was nothing. And I didn't even have to put much. That's another thing. You don't have to slather so much. In fact, very little goes a very long way with milky formulas, especially. And I am just, and I've got the new formula and I'm not using it as much. Seriously, I'm not, because every time I put it on my nails or on my hands, it's not the same. It's not working. It's just not working. My nails are not the way my nails used to feel, completely smooth and ridgeless, while using the old formula. The old formula practically healed some of my nails back to normal. Believe it or not, some of my nails actually became back to normal, and some of them stopped producing more ridges. They just stopped. But now, again, I got this sudden production of ridges on other nails that didn't have them. And when I'm using this new formula, I'm sorry, it's just not helping. It's not doing anything much. It's really not doing anything much. And I'm really sad about that, because I don't know who came up with this idea and this myth, because it really is a myth, that oh, thick moisturizers, the thicker the better, because they're intense. They're not intense. They're not. Believe me, for a skin like mine that is actually very normal, but it suddenly went to this overdrive sensitivity, and especially towards the dryness, where it literally became like, it's like you have these tiny cuts on your skin, literally, as if you've got cuts on your skin. It gets so dry that it literally cuts up, and only runny milky formulas help. These intense moisturizers, they literally do not do anything. So yeah, I would really wish for these brands to please bring back their milky formulas, okay? Please, especially the local brands of Pakistan. You're doing an amazing job with your with your milky formulas, with your runny formulas, believe it or not, okay? Do not go and produce those, or at least, okay, fine, you want to produce your, intense, thick formulas, go ahead. But keep the running option for us too, okay? Don't just completely change your whole formula, and why even? Why? Keep the options open here, please. Because not every formula, as you know, suits everyone, as I've just proved to you. Well, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.